Yo, what up, vendors? You doing a show? Let's talk about what you should do before the show. Let's get it. On this podcast, we dive into the world of being a vendor. Add a little BTS, some DIY, tons of tips and tricks, and every now and then, we chop it up with vendors from around the country. Welcome to the vendor booth. There's something about being a vendor that you might not know. And this is what a lot of vendors share, which is how they started. Here's the scenario. You heard about a show, pulled out your wallet, paid for a booth. That's the way that most vendors actually became vendors. This episode is about what you should do before the show, and this goes for any show. The first thing you want to do is find the show and research that show. If at all possible, you should attend the show before signing up. You'll be able to get a lot of information by attending the show. Like, is there a big crowd? Is there a small crowd? How many vendors have booths at the event? You also can talk to those vendors and ask them questions like, hey, how long have you been doing this event? Or, do you find that this is a good event to vend at? So you can get those kinds of answers firsthand. For the most part, most shows are an annual event, so you only get that one shot at them per year. So it might not be possible to actually attend the event if you really got your heart set on doing it. So the next best thing to do is research the show on the internet. Now, you basically go on social media, type in the show name, and see what comes up. So you find the show on social media. Here's what you're looking for. Photos and videos of past events, right? Then you're also looking for advertisements of the upcoming show, if it's current, right, or about to happen. And then you want to scan through the comments looking for statements like, it was a good show, it was a great show, it was a bad show, the show sucked, because people usually don't have a filter and will say if a show is good or bad. You checked out their social media, you think it's a cool show to try out, cool. Before you sign the contract, you want to make sure you read it. You want to make sure you understand the rules and regulations, okay? And you want them to be crystal clear, and before you sign, if you got any questions, reach out to the showrunner or the show organizer to get those questions answered. When you're looking at the contract, one of the main things you should see is what you are getting for your money. So that should be telling you your booth size, how many tables, your actual spacing, those kinds of things, right? If you have any questions about the show, you should reach out to the show organizer and ask away. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. If you want to know, you want to know. Listen, you're about to invest some money into this booth. You should want to know everything you can. You research the show looks cool, you want to sign up for it. Before you sign anything, or before you exchange any money, you want to make sure that you go over the rules and regulations, which are in the contract. If you see something you don't like or you don't understand, don't be afraid to reach out to the show organizer and ask them to explain or to clarify it for you. While you're talking to the show organizer, you can also ask if you need a license or if you need any kind of documentation to be at the show, because some shows require a sales license or a vendor license. Now, the next thing you want to ask the show organizer is how many people attended the show last year and how many people do they expect to come to the show in the current year or the show that you're signing up for. If the show organizer shows any hesitation when you ask about the numbers, you simply just say, listen, I'm trying to get the numbers so I can figure out how much merchandise I gotta bring. And I base it off the average amount of people that are coming through the doors. Speaking of merchandise, you want to make sure that your merchandise is in sync with the show or vice versa, that the people or the show is in sync with what you sell. You don't want to sign up for a show and it's not going to be a good show from the start for you. Okay, you read the rules and regulations, you read through the contract, everything is good, you want to sign on for the show. So you sign on, you give your deposit. Now, you should be receiving a welcome email from the show. In the email, you're going to find some more information about the show, which is stuff like what time or what the hours are of the show, what time is load-in, or when you can set up your booth, the time frames. It's also going to tell you if there's a back entry or front entry for the load-in. There'll also be some information about your booth, your vendor passes, and if you pay 50% up front, they might tell you something like the balance is due upon entry or before you set up your booth. The next thing you want to do before the show is update your credit card applications. So that could be your Venmo, that could be your PayPal, Square, and the likes. If you have a credit card reader, you want to make sure that that's updated, and you want to do it at home, because if you try to do it at the show, everybody's going to be using the same Wi-Fi signal. So if there's 200 vendors in there, they only have a limited amount of bandwidth with their Wi-Fi. And if 200 people are on the Wi-Fi at the same time, it really slows down to like nothing in terms of like the signal that you get. The next thing you want to do before the show is make sure that your helper is available during the show days. You want to confirm this and make sure that they agree to help you and that it's written in stone. And you should always have a backup plan just in case. Once you confirm that your helper is locked in and this is a sure thing, what you want to do on your own is be able to provide breakfast and lunch for that person if you're not paying them to help you. The next thing you want to do before the show is get your cash or your change from the bank, as well as fill up the car with gas. You want to do this before the show because the day of the show, you just want to be focused on getting in there and doing what you got to do. The next thing to do is let them know on social media, meaning let everyone know that this show is coming up, the dates of the show, the time of the show, and then also if you have a booth number, you can let them know that number so that way they could come and visit you just to say hi or to shop. Another reason you want to let people know on social media is you might get sales before the show. Okay? Some people might not be able to make it, but they still want to support. They might place an order prior to the show. Or they might tell you, hey, can you save one of these items for me? And that might not happen if you don't say anything. So when you go on social media, you can show off what products you're taking to the show. You can preview them. And it's a good way to advertise what you do and what you're bringing. This last item is one of the hardest things to do before the show. And that is get some rest. get a good night's sleep. It's one of the hardest things to do before any show because you're filled with anticipation and excitement, and you got the fear of, am I going to sell or not going to sell? What's going to happen? And you got all that going through your head. You got to try and put all of that to rest. You got to try and get as much sleep and rest as possible so that you can have good energy for the show. All right, so that's what I got. It's not a full in-depth list. However, these are the ones that I felt are most important to take care of before the show. All right? I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.